This project is a perfect example of so-called experimental archaeology or archaeology of senses.
In our case, reconstructing a costume and dressing people up in these costumes can give us information of what does a costume do to a person.
Welcome to SWPS University's Science Share Talks, a series that provides researchers with a platform to share their stories behind their projects, explore ideas, and challenge the status quo. A place where new insights and solutions take shape. One conversation, different perspectives, new frontiers.
We are meeting today to discuss the project we realized together with a fantastic team of experts consisting of archaeologists from the University of Warsaw and designers from School of Form at SWPS University. What we did together, we undertook the reconstruction of the costumes of Nubian dignitaries based on paintings from Faras, from the collection of the National Museum in Warsaw and the Sudanese Museum in Khartoum. This is a unique example of transdisciplinary academic collaboration that generates new knowledge, showing that artifacts and phenomena from the past can have a contemporary face. So let's start from introducing each other. With me in the studio is Karel Ineme, art historian and archaeologist who studied and taught at Leiden University in the Netherlands, later also in Amsterdam. His main interest and specialization is Christian culture of the Near East. He's been doing excavation work and other research projects in Egypt, Sudan, and Syria.
Agnieszka Jakobson is a design curator here at School of Form. With a background in visual arts, who is interested in how local context influences design identities. Previously, she was also artistic director at the Wood Design Festival and launch editor-in-chief of the Polish version of Elle Décoration. She teaches color and material issues as a way of storytelling here at School of Form.
So this project we are talking about, entitled Costumes of Authority, the Image of Royalty and Clergy in Christian Nubia. You know, this project is quite unique, and what I learned that this project is a perfect example of so-called experimental archaeology or archaeology of senses. So what does it mean exactly, this archaeology of senses?
Yeah, well, archaeologists are interested not in the first place in objects. That's what many people think, that archaeologists are digging for nice objects that they not put into the museums. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. An archaeologist is interested in the reconstruction of society, and the material objects are simply the evidence of reconstructing how a society functioned, how people were thinking, working, believing. Our research is aimed at reconstructing a visual language in a society, while at a School of Form there is more or less an opposite mechanism where the design of objects is the result of processes that take place in society. I think that is a very interesting overlap, and experimental archaeology tries to put into practice some aspects of these immaterial backgrounds of the object. So in our case, reconstructing a costume and dressing people up in these costumes can give us information of what does a costume do to a person? How does it influence the movements, the attitude of the person, but also how is the reaction of the viewer who is confronted with such a person? You can do this on paper, you can do it as a thought experiment, but it's much more interesting if you do it, in fact, with the material and see how this costume functions as really a form of communication between two persons, mm-hmm. the viewer and the wearer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so also from my perspective, this decoding of two-dimensional pictures, faded, incomplete, and you know, somehow we have an imagination how those characters could look like. I remember after we visited this museum in Switzerland and trying to guess which part of the textile was on the front and which was on the back, and what was the undergarments, underwear, and what was the code, and then studying those tiny pieces of textiles, and then this whole massive research we did to find the contemporary textiles, which are industrially produced, but to find the properties, the visual properties, the physical properties, and it was like building this 3D model. So it was becoming more and more real and more and more three-dimensional. And it looks like we just took the fabrics and made those garments, but it wouldn't be possible without all this archaeological background you delivered. And also saying about the emotional moments, you remember, because I was not there, you were there when we had the first samples from Professor Kasia Schmidt-Przewoźna, the color samples of the same plants that were used for in Nubia 1,000 years ago, and you went to National Museum to compare those colors and to choose the right ones that fit best to the gowns, and they were really the same. And then in Leiden, in Textile Research Center, we had the physical samples, and again they were the same, and it was, we would have no idea how to find it, how to compare it, and the same way we learned about the possible ways of decorating fabrics, because that was the big concern. Are we allowed to do prints? Because we were not sure if they were printed, if they were embroidered. And even if it's this experimental approach, all those techniques we used could happen then in this place, in this time. However, it's very possible they would use it differently. So that's that's a lot of guessing, but also a lot of I think we get much closer to this time than ever before.
The reconstructions or recreations rather are still quite hypothetical. That means that we are not 100% sure of whether the paintings show woven, printed, embroidered textiles. But at least what we did, the whole process, was something that could have happened this way. There is no falsification. We did not use any methods or dyes or fibers that were not possible or did not exist in those times. And now we're talking about 1,000 years ago. Yeah, and that was the exciting thing, that the whole reconstruction of the processes that we did together, in all the details, the dyes, the fibers, led to this, I think, quite reliable result.
Yeah. Yes, and also what is, I think, important to mention, that we had in fact only the iconography and the chemical tests to acknowledge what could we use and how could it look like, because there is in fact almost no written documentation or no written sources to learn about the way of dressing and the materials used.
No, there are no recipe books. There are no texts that give any information about these costumes. So yes, we have the archaeological remains, the small fragments of textile. We have the paintings. But then on the other hand, and that's what I find so fascinating, also when it comes to the overlap in our fields of research, that is that some things in human culture have simply not changed over the millennia. we are still using ceramics. We are still having ceramic cups and plates. Technique that was invented something like 15,000 years ago. We are still wearing textile in wool, silk, linen, materials that were known 5,000 years ago. Textiles were woven in much the same way that they are still being woven. So, yes, reconstructing such processes is simply going back in time, but it is something that has not basically changed in the material culture.
Yeah, that's right. But in the same time, what was also fascinating for me when searching for iconography to present or to guess the forms of crowns or for the other accessories. We saw from the paintings, but again they were flat, so we were searching for some maybe three-dimensional in the museum collections. And those links between Georgia and Nubia and East and West overlapping, and our method is a visual analyze. We just looking at the objects, we think, okay, maybe it's something in common. It looks very alike, but it doesn't make sense because it's 3,000 kilometers one from the other. Then we learn that it makes sense because the nations were moving, the tradition was moving, the religion was spreading in the certain way.
Yeah, I think that maybe nowadays people underestimate the mobility 1,000, 2,000 years ago. People were traveling, people were trading textiles. There was silk being imported from Asia. Nubia, that's Central Africa, in fact. People were aware of how people in Constantinople were dressed and tried to follow the fashion there. So, yeah, as you say, if you take Constantinople as a center, then it has been radiating towards Armenia, Bulgaria, Georgia, and to Nubia, so that Nubia has things in common with Bulgaria, for instance.
But tell me, when writing the application for NCN, did you consider the Louvre and Bode and all this fantastic perception and prospect of the project we did?
No, we didn't. I think that very often scholars, researchers are not the most talented people when it comes to PR and publicity and communication with society in general. They publish in their own scholarly journals that appear in, let's say, 1,000 copies maximum, and that's it. And now, all of a sudden, we have the attention of a wider audience for the project. Not only for the costumes themselves, but it also gives the opportunity to present the background of these costumes. That is, power, authority, and how power and authority are communicated through these costumes.
I think it's the other advantage of this cooperation, that coping with the designers. We School of Form invited Dorota Rokplo for this project. She's a costume designer known from the movies like Mill and the Cross. So amazing, really talented, and together we completed the team of really skilled people. So seamstresses, the embroiderers, the guys who made the crowns and the accessories were those who are also making accessories for the Game of Thrones. So it was really not. It was really the best team we could find, and then we realized, seeing the quality, that we have to build a story behind it. So it's what you said. So I think another part of this project, it was already not NCN, but it was decision taken within the process to not to make a documentary, but to make the professional photo shooting for all those costumes. And then it was another layer of surprises, because searching for the right people, for the right location, Paulina Matusiak proposed the church in The Hague in Netherlands, and it's the modernist church, which is in a very strange and surprising way similar to Faras Cathedral, built on desert 1,000 years ago. But the proportions, the structure, the rhythm of the architecture was very alike. And it was what we wanted to do, not to the photographs that would look exactly like paintings, which also would be possible, but I think much, much less interesting. But to show those gowns on real contemporary people in contemporary spaces. So this photo shooting we did in The Hague, inviting representatives of Sudanese community in the Netherlands and Germany. And what we could, it happened in the front of our eyes, that those people, not having very strong and high position in the Western countries, wearing those costumes, they were transforming. They were. It was really amazing how they were changing their body posture, their way of movements, and they really felt for this moment they were those authorities, and we could also perfectly see it on the stage in the Louvre when they were really shining, of course, because of amazing garments they had, but also because they feeling, they pride, their emotions, and also our emotions were, I would say, extreme.
Yeah. These were, in fact, the answers to our research question. That's what does the costume do to the wearer and what does it do to the viewer? And I was there during the photo shoot in The Hague. We saw this transformation, and all of us, we were simply moved. We had tears in our eyes, I think, to see how this magnificent transformation took place. And that was, in fact, the background of the experiment of recreating these costumes. So yes, it worked.
I think, the work of Magda Woźniak you mentioned, who did this chemical and optical analysis of the looms to understand, was it wool or was it cotton, was it local or was it imported? And what Kasia Schmidt-Przewoźna did, the old tests of color, we wouldn't have the other way of communicating this than just showing the final result. It was the more than 2 years of emotions, of surprises, of unexpected. We from the beginning we knew what we are going to do, but in the same way we didn't expect it.
Yeah. And the surprising thing is also that it was not only the compatibility of our disciplines. It was a perfect example, I think, of multidisciplinary approach to a research question. And also in the personal field, our communication was, I think, surprising and surprisingly good.
Yes, that's right.
It's so yeah. In all respect, it was a surprising outcome. Yeah.
I think it was matter of curiosity because we really had the different parts of the puzzle. So we were constantly learning one from the other. So the designers from the archeologists and the other way around. It's this case when 1 + 1 gives more than 2. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Now we have to follow what we achieved, and because in less than 2 weeks we are opening the exhibition in Bode Museum in Berlin, where where the costumes will be presented next to the objects from the museum collection. And then, what are the other plans?
So after the Bode Museum, there are plans of presenting the costume here in Warsaw at the Centrum Nauki Kopernik. Again, in an on-stage presentation. We are in contact with the Museum of Antiquities in Leiden, where there is a Nubian temple, an authentic Nubian temple that has been used as a church in the past, and in front of which we can present the costumes. So that will be the perfect historical backdrop for it. In combination with a small exhibition, with the same, hopefully some of the materials also that we have at the exhibition in the Bode Museum. Maybe there are possibilities of bringing the costumes to the Nubia Museum in Aswan in Egypt. And we are also thinking of 2 museums in the United States. So there is a long-term planning which is still not complete, but we have all kinds of I think exciting ideas of what to do with the costume. They're certainly not going into the drawer for the the next couple of years.
Yeah. It seems we will be busy. So hopefully we will find time also to think about the continuity of this project. And can you tell what will be in the Bode Museum? What will be presented there beside our costumes?
Apart from the costumes, there will be some authentic materials, textiles which are comparable to the reconstructed costumes. There is, for instance, one bishop's stole, a 10th century Coptic omophorion, as it is called, which is very much similar to a bishop's omophorion depicted here in one of the paintings in the National Museum in Warsaw. So we have the perfect opportunity of showing an authentic garment from Egypt with a painting from Nubia. But there will also be information about the background of the authority of kings and royal mothers, especially this aspect of the female authority in Nubia, the high position of the mother of the successor to the throne is one of the typically Nubian aspects of royal power that is depicted in these wall paintings. And then, of course, the close ties between the royal court and the church. So these immaterial aspects will also be highlighted in the texts that accompany the costumes and the reproductions of the paintings on which they are based.
Can't wait.
And then, of course, there will be at the end of the exhibition, on the final day, again a show where models will be showing the costumes on stage.
Yeah, because I think that's also the important thing to explain, that we have 2 ways of presentation, and the one way is the kind of catwalk, maybe not catwalk, but it's presented on the models, and it's what happened in Paris. And it will also happen in Bode and in Centrum Nauki Kopernik. So what's really important to us is to have Sudanese people to present it, also to grab attention on the situation of Sudan because of the war which is ongoing there. And the second way of the presentation is the exhibition, and then this context that Carol mentioned, so the context of contemporary and the past, where we can prove that the way of embroidering is not what we invented, but it's really what we saw in the historical pieces, and the same, the kind of ornaments and the kind of decoration. So And of course, we will do the things that academicians usually do. So also publication also will appear in time. Thank you for inviting us to this project, because I think, it was one of the most exciting and fascinating trip in my life.
Yeah, and we are incredibly happy with our cooperation and your enormous input in the project. I mean, it's without all the expertise of School of Form, it wouldn't have happened. It's I think, as I said, the interdisciplinary cooperation, which I think could also serve as an example to other researchers, that one and one can be three, like here.
Yeah, but it's about braveness and trust, and I think friendship in the end.
Yeah.
That's really great. Thank you.
Thank you.